It's the Happy Families podcast. It's the podcast for the time-poor parent who just wants answers now.
If the battle is about allowing them to have some kind of childhood that's free from the burdens of adult life, then we have to see it as a long game.
And now here's the stars of our show, my mum and dad.
Well, Kylie, every Tuesday we do our best to be helpful in answering a listener question. People can email us podcasts, that's podcasts with an S, at happyfamilies.com.au. I should introduce us for those of you who are new to the pod. Welcome. My name's Dr. Justin Coulson. I'm the founder of happyfamilies.com.au, and I'm here with Kylie, my wife and mum to our 6 kids. I think that we're probably one of the only husband and wife podcast partnerships that talk about parenting on the planet, and we're going to do some more of that today. Every Tuesday, like I said, listener questions. This one, Kylie, I'm tired and flustered just reading the question. I have so much empathy for this mum who has emailed us. No name included on the email, but here's what it says. We have 3 kids, 6, 4, and 2. And I'm pregnant with twins. Now, just before I go on, do you remember we had some friends, they had 3 kids, and they ummed and ahed, and do we or don't we? Should we have a 4th child? I mean, it means a bigger car. It means so many other things, but they finally, I was going to say pulled the pin. I'm not sure if that's quite the right phrase, but they decided that they would go for number 4, and they got triplets. They got 4, 5, and 6 all in one. They went from 3 to 6 in 9 months. Anyway, similar thing happening here. 3 kids, 6, 4, and 2. And now twins on the way. This is going to be a busy, busy family. And the next 15 years, let's be honest, next 15 years are going to be really, really intense. What are reasonable expectations to have on children this age in regards to helping as part of a family? Now, I really like this question because this isn't just relevant for this family. This is every family who has kids, and we're kind of going, how do we get them involved? Like, how do we get them to unpack the dishwasher or clean up the room? At what age is it reasonable to expect that the kids are going to do stuff? But with this family, obviously, we've got some additional challenges, additional requirements. Mum says, some context, I am physically limited at the moment. We have limited support, and everything's landing on my husband. And I feel like simple things, particularly the 6-year-old and the 4-year-old could do to help, would be great. But they're also kids, and I want them to be kids, and I don't want to have expectations that are unfair and unreasonable. But I'm also feeling like the next 12 to 16 weeks are going to be hard to survive or function well, and I'm going to add the next 12 to 16 weeks are going to be easy compared to what's coming with the twins. Kylie, just hearing this, I mean, it's a really tough question. It's really, really challenging for this mum, but I think that there's a fair bit that we could talk about. Do you remember what it was like when you were pregnant with number 4 or 5 or 6, each of our youngest kids, and the rest of the house still needed to function? And I mean, I've always done what I can, but I've been working full time. I've been studying full time. I've had all of those things going on. I mean, this is a really, really difficult situation. What did you used to do? I mean, I've got a whole lot of ideas here, but you've lived this. What did you used to do when you were heavily pregnant or just having had a baby? And we lived in places where we had no support.
So I can really identify with this listener in relation to that need for help and assistance and support, and yet the yearning of my heart says, let my children be children. Let them be light. Let them have the freedom to explore and be inquisitive and curious in their world without having the burden of adult life.
Yeah, without the 4-year-old having to pull out the vacuum cleaner and the iron and get stuff done.
And so background for me is that I grew up in that home, where as a 4-year-old I had to do a lot of things.
You were pretty much running the house from what, the age of 9, 10?
Oh, well, at different times. My mum had my little sister when I was 6, and she was bedridden for a very long part of her pregnancy and then after pregnancy. And so I was doing lots of things.
Yep. And she had high expectations.
And she did. And so when we had children, I kind of pushed back. You had expectations of what the kids would get involved in, and I really, really pushed back on it.
And if I could go back, I would change that high expectation that I had. I feel like I was too hard.
So your question, what did we do in those younger years to get our kids involved? The one thing that we did do that I think was semi-successful.
You're not really selling it at all.
Semi-successful was the acknowledgement that whatever I dictated to the kids what they would or wouldn't do, we got very little compliance.
Yeah.
But the times when we sat down with them and just explained the situation, explained that mum and dad didn't have the capacity to do what we were capable of doing at other times and that we actually really needed their help, was to actually sit down together and write a list of the jobs that they knew needed to be done around the house and then ask them what jobs they were willing to volunteer to participate in. Those times we got much better compliance than we did the times where I just said, all right, well, you're going to do this and this and this. That's your weekly job.
I wouldn't even say compliance. I'd say the kids were more willing helpers. They got involved, they rolled their sleeves up and they got stuff done. We've learned a lot since those days, though.
Have.
And if I could go back and do it again, I would do it so very differently. So my new book that's coming out in late April, early May. My new book is all about what I'm about to share. So here's a sneak peek for what the book is. And oh my goodness, I wish that I'd known this and read this back then. First off, we know that force creates resistance. So the more hardcore we are as parents saying, you need to do this and we need help and mum can't do it all and dad can't do it all and it's all too much and you kids need to participate, they're going to look at us like, it just does not make sense. It's too hard. Second thing we've got to do is consider the developmental realities of what the kids are capable of doing when they're doing well. The 2-year-old, I wouldn't have too much of an expectation. Full stop, end of story. And even the 4-year-old, I mean, oh boy, looking at our eldest, I remember when she was 4 or 5 and I thought, well, she's a big girl now. And I look at our 8-year-old and I'm like, oh, she's still just a baby. Yeah. Just a baby. So there are 3 principles that I think can guide the way any parent works with their kids to help them to do chores, whether you're expecting 2 more and you've already got 3 and they're 6, 4 and 2, or whether you just want the kids to get some work done around the house. And the 3 principles are, number 1, involvement, connection. What we're looking for here is, Kylie, what a difference it makes when the kids are doing it with you rather than being sent to do it on their own as a chore. It doesn't feel like a chore anymore if there's involvement.
Well, it's time together. You're connected. You're sharing in each other's space and time.
Yeah.
It doesn't feel like I'm being sentenced and banished to the bathroom.
I had this amazing experience just as you said that. It reminded me of what happened just a couple of nights ago. Our just started to attend university daughter, Ella, came out and helped me to do the dishes. She'd cooked dinner for us, which was wonderful. I love it when the kids cook dinner. It means that we're raising competent humans, and it was a good dinner. You had gone out. The other kids were all out doing things. I was literally the only one around. So I'm doing the dishes, and she saw me and came over and simply started doing the dishes. And it's not just 19-year-olds that do this. In fact, they're the least likely usually. It's you. It's typically the smaller kids that do it. They see you doing something and they say, let me come and join in. And when I queried her on it and said, oh, how come you're helping me with the dishes? You cooked dinner. And she said, when I see you in the kitchen, I just want to come and be with you. And I thought, I know, it was just magic. But it's that involvement. It's the connection, the belonging. And if I've got a 6-year-old and a 4-year-old and a 2-year-old and I want them to be involved in contributing around the house, I'm going to say, hey, kiddo, I'm going to go and do this. I'm going to go and pick up the leaves, or I'm going to go and pick up 15 things off the floor in the toy room, or I'm going to go and hang out the washing. You want to come and hand me the pegs? That's
the key. That really is the key. And I wish that I had known that as a young mum. I think about the multiple times my children actually wanted to get involved. And it's really hard for me to admit this now, but I didn't want their involvement because I knew it wasn't going to be the perfect execution.
Yeah. It's got to look right.
That I needed. I remember baby number 3. I was washing walls. We were renting a house and I needed to clean the walls, and she wanted to get involved. And it was the first time where I had started to have a shift in thinking. And so I let her. I think we went through nearly every towel in the house because I had to put towels down near the end of on the carpet so that all of the water that was coming off the sponge didn't obviously drench the carpet.
Yeah.
But she was so excited to be a part of what we were doing. And at the end of the day, it was that connection that you're talking about, that involvement. She just wanted to do what I was doing.
Now, you've brought me to the second point that I was going to make, and that is competence. So we've got the connection, and then we've got competence or capability. And this is critical, especially with younger kids, but also with older kids who are now trying to adult and are doing a really bad job of it. There's a beautiful story in Hunt, Gather, Parent, the book by Michaeline Duclef that I made a big deal about last year. And she tells this story of a young girl, Alexa, 4 or 5 years of age, sitting down with her mum, Maria, as Maria makes tortillas. Now, to make a tortilla is a complicated thing to do. You've got to get the corn flour, you've got to flatten it out, you've got to get it to the right shape. It's not something that is easy. It takes years and years of practice and lots of strong thumbs, I guess. And so Alexa is trying to make this tortilla, and it's not round and it's not flat. It's kind of lumpy. And Maria does not offer any correction, does not provide any direction. She just lets Alexa make a couple of tortillas. And after she's made 2 or 3, she decides that she's going to go and run and play outside and do something else. She gets bored. And as Michaeline Duclef watches this happen, she says to Maria, once little Alexa has run out of the room, she says, "Isn't it driving you crazy? Why are you not telling her how to do it? Like, if this was me with my daughter, I would have said, no, not like that, like this. Now practice, do it again." And Maria said, "But it's hard. And she wants to be with me. And she's made 3 tortillas. And she doesn't need to know how to do it as a 5-year-old. Like, she'll learn how to do it. By the time she's 12 or 15, she'll be a professional tortilla maker. And she's making them right now because she wants to, not because she has to." Isn't that beautiful?
So beautiful.
So we're building competence by accepting their offering, whatever it is, and just having them involved.
I know a couple of years ago, our 6-year-old at the time wanted to wash the car.
Yes.
And if you've ever allowed a young child to wash your car, you will know that they don't get every spot, and you kind of get these clean streaks through what is otherwise a dirty car.
And I chide myself for it now, Kylie, but whenever the kids used to help me wash the car, I would follow them with the sponge, and everything that they'd done, I would redo because it wasn't done properly. And I won't say I hate myself for it now, but I wish I could change it.
But we worked out that she was actually really good at details. It's a big space to kind of try and clean a whole car.
Yeah.
So one of her really, and she still does it today, she is adamant about cleaning the wheels. And she makes sure all those wheels are squeaky clean, and she does a magnificent job. She's now 8, and so she actually is doing a pretty damn good job of washing the car.
Just last weekend, she actually she asked for the footstool, the step ladder, so that she could get up and do the roof. I was like, okay, we're progressing.
But I think that beautiful illustration, Maria, and just the acknowledgement, as a 6-year-old, she doesn't actually need to know how to wash the car competently. She wants to be involved. And yeah, we've said it enough times, but I wish I had have known that.
Sometimes they make more mess than like it makes more work for us.
Yeah.
And I appreciate, in light of the email that we've received, that this may sound like the worst idea ever. It could be completely counterproductive. But there's this great quote. I'm going to make an absolute mess of it. I don't even know who said it. But there's this guy, he was a famous baseball player in America, and he was talking about when he was being raised, he and his brothers would be out on the lawn playing baseball and football and just making a mess of things. And one time, one of the neighbours commented to his dad, "The boys are making a mess of the lawn out there, aren't they?" And his dad said, "I'm not raising a lawn, I'm raising boys." Isn't that great?
Sometimes I wish that we could go back and start all over again.
I probably don't know if I would have had 6 if I'd started again.
No, we wouldn't have.
Although I don't know which one we'd get rid of. I mean, I'm crazy about them all. But whew. So the last idea, I mentioned that there were 3 principles to help this family work out what to do about chores. And
so we've talked about involvement.
Involvement and connection. We've talked about competence and capability. And the last one is choice or agency or
autonomy.
Autonomy, yeah. And it's sort of been interwoven through your stories and through a couple of the principles and stories that I've shared as well. And that is, we just want to say to them, here's what I'm doing. Would you like to join me? Or here are some things that need to be done. What do you feel most like doing? And even if they pick the simplest thing, even if the 6-year-old goes, "Oh, my 4-year-old brother or sister always picks the easy one. I always have to do the hard ones." Let them have choice. Let them have choice and let them do the stuff that they want. We might say, which room do you want to clean up? Do you want to clean up the kitchen or do you want to clean up the living room? Which is what you and I will say to our kids reasonably frequently. And they'll usually say, no, I'd rather do the bathroom or my bedroom. And we're like, okay, do it. That's fine. So long as you're doing something, we don't really care. But the importance of choice to go along with the competence and just learning and figuring out how to do it however long it takes, so long as they're involved with you and developing themselves and have some choice in it. I think they're the principles that matter. I don't know that is the kind of answer that our emailer was looking for.
The reality is, when we're dealing with the children and the age groups that we're looking at, 6, 4 and 2, this is a long game.
It's a long game.
It's a long game. But if the battle is about finding a balance between helping our children to learn responsibility and to gain competence in areas that help us, and allowing them to have some kind of childhood that's free from the burdens of adult life, then we have to see it as a long game and the opportunity for us to be involved. One of my favourite memories of our youngest is that she would come and sit with me when I would fold the washing, and she would just match the socks. And it took her a while to do that as a little 3-year-old. And by the time she'd matched the socks, I'd finished folding a basket of washing and I could fold the socks too. But we did it together. And we got to do lots of incidental learning as a result, matching colours, sizes.
And you build the relationship at the same time.
Yeah.
I really think that it's the secret. It's not the list. When they're 2, they can do this job, and when they're 4, they can do that job, and when they're 6, they can do this job, and when they're 8, they're big enough to do this job. I don't think that's what it's about. And that's why I haven't approached this response in that way. I really think it's about these principles that underpin the relationship and the development of competence and the freedom to make choices.
I guess the last thing that I would add, being the mum who's gone through this numerous times, while I haven't particularly been great at getting our kids involved all the time, one of the things that I learnt the hard way was acknowledging that at this season of my life, I can't do it all. And being able to let go of the things that just aren't important. If you're used to having an empty washing basket every day, the reality is that's probably not going to happen now. And that's okay. Giving yourself permission to just take a step back and do what is achievable and let go of the other stuff.
The Happy Families podcast is produced by Justin Rowland from Bridge Media. Craig Bruce is our executive producer. If you've got a question that you'd like answered, send us an email, podcasts@happyfamilies.com.au. That's podcasts with an S at happyfamilies.com.au. If you'd like more info about making your family happier, you can visit us at happyfamilies.com.au for all the info you need.